The DJI Neo released in August 2024 and I had to get my hands on one straight away. After putting in some serious hours of flying the Neo, I've created this video which should tell you everything you need to know to get set up and flying with the Neo, whether you've never flown a drone before or are an experienced flyer. So what is the DJI Neo? In short, it's a tiny 4K drone packed with new and exciting features such as takeoff and landing from your hand, AI subject tracking, automatic footage capture, and multiple ways to fly, including with your phone or without a controller at all. The Neo weighs an incredibly light 135 grams and is about the size of a hand, so is super light and portable and will be great for travel. It's also super agile, especially when paired with the optional DJI goggles and RC motion controller, and has a great transmission range of up to 10 kilometers. It's also currently DJI's lowest priced drone at just £169 or $199 at the time of filming, making it one of the best value ones on the market. Just so you know, I'm not affiliated with DJI and bought the Neo for myself, and if you're interested in getting one for yourself, check out my affiliate links in the description below. The Neo comes on its own with one battery and no remote control, or as a Fly More combo kit, which I have here, and this costs a little more at £299 or $289, but that's still a really great price for a drone. Let's get stuck into unboxing the Neo and what's included. Opening it up, there's a number of bits to explore. First up is the Neo drone itself, and you really get a sense of just how small it is. Even with the battery in, it's exceptionally light to hold too, though that doesn't come across well in video. Like its cousin the Avata, and unlike the rest of DJI's drones, it has enclosed propellers, making it safer around people and to launch from your hand, though it would be possible to stick a finger through if you're not being careful. The grey plastic body is pretty much one solid piece, except for the propeller guards, which are removable or replaceable depending on how you look at it. The Neo is rated to level 4 wind resistance or a breeze of 13 to 18 miles per hour, which means it can still be used if it gets a little gusty, but really needs good conditions to fly. You've got the camera at the front, which is currently behind the protector, as well as buttons to fly the drone next to it and the power button at the other end, whilst underneath you have the battery and sensors, though these aren't obstacle avoidance sensors, and there aren't any on this drone. The battery is easily removable via the clip, and this makes up the base and much of the weight of the drone. The 1435 mAh lithium-ion batteries last up to 18 minutes in optimum conditions, so you'll likely get around 15 minutes flying time out of them. This isn't much compared to the 30 minutes of the next DJI drone, the Mini 4K, but it's one of the compromises of having a much smaller drone, and all the more reason to buy the Fly More combo kit, which comes with extra batteries. The batteries weigh 45 grams, so about a third of the Neo's overall weight, and cost £35 each when purchased separately. At the back of the drone there is a USB-C charging port, but no SD card slot, as there's 22GB of built-in memory, which will hold about 40 minutes of 4K video at 30 frames per second, or 55 minutes of 1080p video at 60 frames per second. You can get footage off the drone by either plugging the drone into a computer via the USB-C port, or by downloading clips straight to your phone from the DJI Fly App. The port will charge one Neo Intelligent Flight battery in approximately 1 hour at speeds of up to 65 watts. These batteries are a completely new design, so won't be compatible with any of DJI's other current drones. As mentioned, along the top you have the power button, which uses the standard short press then long press to turn the drone on, followed by the propellers activating and LEDs appearing on the panel nearest the camera. And you can navigate through the modes by pressing the button, with a voice calling out which mode you've selected. Taking the protected cover off of the camera, you have a lens on a single axis gimbal which moves up and down, so the Neo relies on digital stabilisation too, but does a great job, as you'll see later. The camera films footage up to 4K resolution at 30 frames per second and takes 12 megapixel photos thanks to its 14mm f2.8 lens, which has a minimum focusing distance of 60cm and a 1/2 inch sensor. Next up is the Neo's remote control, the RC N3 model, which is pretty similar to its predecessors the N1 and N2, with approximately 3.5 hours of operating time, and it weighs around 320 grams. The Neo is compatible with the N2 and RC2 controllers, though not the N1. There's an irony that the remote control is as big as the drone, and also an argument that a smaller controller that better suits the Neo size would have been nice, but at least the remote control is more widely compatible. The joysticks are kept in the base and screw in to provide comfortable fluid controls which spring back to the centre. The remote control requires a phone to be connected to it, so you can use the DJI Fly App to control the drone, and the phone sits in the adjustable cradle which pulls out from the top. The biggest phone you can fit in it is 180 by 86 by 10mm. Hidden beneath the cradle is a cable to connect to your phone, and the Neo comes with a USB-C to USB-C for Androids and a USB-C to Lightning for iPhones. On the top there are a couple of controls which help with photo and video capture. The dial to the left is to pivot the gimbal up or down, and the gimbal has a fantastic range of movement. It can move down 90 degrees to film below you, or up 60 degrees to film the sky. On the right is the record or photo button, which will start or stop filming or capture a photo depending on which mode you're in. Back to the front of the controller, in the top right corner is the switch camera mode button, so you can switch between video and photos, and in the top right corner is the function button, and you can control what it does in the settings, though as standard it tilts the gimbal down 90 degrees. The power button also utilises a short press then long press sequence to turn on, with the LEDs below illuminating to show the battery level. In the middle you've got your flying modes, with N being the normal mode, C being cine mode for the slowest, smoothest flight for video, and sports mode being the fastest and most agile mode. Finally, the button on the left is the pause flight or return to home button. On the back are rubber grips and controller information. On the base you have the slots where the removable joysticks live, and the USB-C port for charging the controller, which takes around 2 hours to fully charge. There's a box included in the Fly More combo kit, and this contains the extra batteries, charger and accessories. There are 2 extra batteries included in addition to the one already in the drone, and these can be charged in the charging hub. They easily slide in and out, and when using a charger of more than 45 watts connected to the USB-C port on the side, it allows for charging 3 batteries at once, though while using a charger of less than 45 watts, it can only charge 2 batteries simultaneously. At max speeds, it will interestingly charge either 1, 2 or all 3 batteries in the same time of 1 hour. If the batteries are in the hub, you can also plug in an external device, such as the remote control, and charge that using the charging hub as a power bank. To wrap up this unboxing, there are a few accessories included in the Fly More combo kit. The first is a USB-C to USB-C cable for charging the drone and batteries. Next is the short USB-C to Lightning cable for using iPhones with the remote control. Next up are 2 spare propellers, one for the front and one for the back, should you break the originals. To replace them you'll need the included mini screwdriver. And then finally there's info for getting the DJI Fly App, a sticker, a quick start guide, safety guidelines, Japanese safety rules, European safety rules, and an accessory user guide. So that's the DJI Neo unpacked and out of its box. Let's get flying. There are 4 different ways to fly the DJI Neo. First is using palm takeoff. Second is using mobile app control, which includes voice control via the DJI Fly App. The third is to use the RCN3 remote control, and the fourth is via the DJI Goggles 3 and RC Motion 3 controller or FPV Remote Controller 3. Let's start with palm takeoff, as this is DJI's first drone to have this feature and is the most exciting one by far. Luckily it's really simple to do, so first turn the drone on by short pressing then long pressing the big button on the top without it being connected to the app or remote control. Lay the drone flat on your hand with the camera facing you and long press the small button next to the LED symbols. There will be a countdown, the props will whir to life, and the drone will take flight in follow mode. To land it, just put your hand underneath the Neo. It will detect it with its sensors and slowly come down, then cutting the power to the propellers. The Neo uses AI to recognise and track you, hence the need for the camera to be facing you, and is limited to a flying height of 30 meters and flying distance of 50 meters in palm takeoff mode, though can go much further when connected to the RCN3 remote control. Video starts and stops recording automatically, so once the drone is in the air, you're recording in 4K, though there's no way to take photos in this mode. While it's in the air, it's worth mentioning that it's got a reasonably loud, high-pitched whine to it. There are a number of flying modes that you could use in palm takeoff mode, which are accessed by short pressing the button. The first mode is follow, where the drone follows the subject, flying forwards though not backwards. The second is droney, which records a video while flying backwards and then another while flying forward. The third mode is circle, which records footage while flying around the subject. The fourth is rocket, when the drone ascends and records, then descends and records. The fifth is spotlight, where the Neo will hover after takeoff and record a video facing the subject. Finally, there's custom mode, where you can choose between either direction track, where the Neo follows the subject, helix, where the drone spirals around and then upwards, and boomerang, where the drone flies around the subject in an oval pattern. The functionality of this custom mode can be changed in the app. The second way to fly the Neo is by using mobile app control via the DJI Fly App. Once you've downloaded the app, created an account and gone through the relevant permissions and setup, tap Connection Guide and find the Neo image. Tap that and you'll see ways you can connect to the Neo. Choose Connect via mobile device and follow the on-screen instructions. Remove the gimbal protector, make sure there's a battery in the drone, turn the Neo on, and the Neo creates a Wi-Fi connection that the app will pick up, so when it appears, tap the drone and it will begin connecting. It takes a few seconds, but when done you'll be taken to the flying screen. First off, you'll see a wireless stream to the drone's camera, and on the right of this image, the up and down arrows allow you to adjust the gimbal shooting angle. In the top left corner of the screen, you've got the arrow to go back to the connection page, the flight checklist tab, which in my case says takeoff permitted because I'm not in any restricted areas. Moving over to the top right of the screen, there's the remaining battery of the drone, which will turn red if it goes under 20%, the remaining flight time, and the strength of the Wi-Fi connection. Like with Palm Takeoff, the Neo's maximum altitude when flying with this method is 30 meters with a flight distance of 50 meters, as you need to stay within the Wi-Fi connection. There's no return to home feature when flying this way, so you need to keep the drone nearby and within line of sight, and you mustn't fly over water. However, there are a couple of ways to fly the Neo under mobile control. Tap the button below the camera feed to see what DJI is calling Smart Snaps, and you'll get a selection of modes to choose from. The first is manual control, which, when selected, has a manual takeoff button. This will launch the drone from your hand or the ground and will provide 2 virtual joysticks on the screen, simulating the physical joysticks of a handheld controller. Here you can maneuver the drone around, use both at the same time, controlling it within the maximum flight distances. It's a nice method for if you still want something tangible to press and control, instead of just relying on the drone's AI abilities. On the manual control page, you can also switch between photos and videos, use the big red button to capture, and there's also a microphone button because using the app also allows audio recording from the phone or an external microphone plugged into the phone. The sound is automatically synced to the drone's video file, so it will be great for talking to the drone and as it follows you and recording sound from your surroundings. To bring the drone down, there's a landing button to the left of the Smart Snap selection button, as well as voice control options to the right of it. Under settings, you'll find commands for this, which I'll come onto in a bit. The next Smart Snaps are the same as Palm Takeoff, with the direction track being changeable to helix or boomerang in the settings. All you have to do is have the drone facing you, select your chosen Smart Snap and hit the big green start button. To the bottom left of this button, you also have access to the manual controls should you need to intervene and stop or move the Neo during an automated flight pattern. In the footer bar, there's a button for visiting the drone album so you can see all of your clips. To the right is the settings button, and this adds another level of control to the Smart Snaps. Each of them have changeable parameters. For follow, you can change the follow distance and height. For droney, you can change the max distance from 2 to 10 meters and the way the Neo ascends from flat to rise. For circle, you can change the max distance from 2 to 20 meters. For rocket, you can change the max height from 4 up to 10 meters and allow rotation as the drone ascends. For spotlight, you can switch camera modes between photo and video. Under custom, you can switch to direction track with changeable follow distance and height, to boomerang with a changeable distance of 4 to 20 meters, and to helix with a changeable distance of 4 to 20 meters too. The interesting thing here is that if you change the custom mode in the app, then it will also change on the drone when you come to use Palm Takeoff without the app, which is very clever and gives you access to 2 extra modes. Below the Smart Snap settings, you have the camera settings. Here you can switch between 4K and 1080 resolution, can change your frame rate to 50 or 60 frames per second when in 1080 resolution, can switch between H.264 and H.265 encoding formats, change photo aspect ratio from 16:9 to 4:3, and finally view available storage and format the internal memory. Under more settings, you have the safety tab where you can calibrate the compass and IMU or inertial measurement unit and check the battery cycle count too. Under the control tab, you can change the unit between metric and imperial and view voice control settings. Here you can allow voice wake up and record a wake up word. Below that you have the set commands for recording, following and safety. Going back to the control tab, lastly you have the gimbal calibration and recentering settings. The final tab is about, and you have all of the drone's information and the ability to reset the settings in clear data. The third option for flying is with the RC-N3 remote control included with the Fly More combo kit, or available separately for £105 or $129. Most drone flyers will be familiar with this method as it's the same as most other drones. To get flying with the remote control, turn on the drone and controller by short pressing and long pressing the power button until the LEDs appear. Make sure the gimbal protector is removed from the Neo camera. You'll also need the DJI Fly App here. It's available from the App Store for Apple users, though not on the Play Store for Android, but you can easily download it via the DJI website and it works just the same as any other app. On the remote control, screw in the joysticks, pull the cradle up and get one end of the USB-C cable out of its storage location. Put your phone in the cradle and then plug the USB-C cable into your phone. Tap Connection Guide, find and tap the Neo and select Connect with RC only to go through the connection steps. When the remote controller and drone find each other, you'll automatically be taken to the flying screen, so may bypass this step as it knows which mode you'll be flying in. To get flying with the remote control, place the drone on the ground, though it will take off manually from your hand too, and press the left hand up arrow on the screen of the DJI Fly app. This will bring up the auto takeoff screen. Hold the one tap takeoff button until the green circle goes all the way around and the drone will fly to and hover at an altitude of 1.2 meters. And whilst you're here, if you're wondering how to get it down again, just repeat the process with the down H button on the left hand side of the screen and the drone will land. With the drone hovering in the air, you'll see it hold pretty steadily in the same spot, with minor movement depending on the wind. To put the drone up higher, press forwards with the left joystick. To lower it, press backwards. Press the control stick to the left to pivot the whole drone left, and press to the right to pivot the drone right. With the right control stick, press forwards to move the drone forwards, and press back to move backwards. Press right to move the drone along to the right, and press to the left to shift left. There are a few other bits on the remote control that it's important to know too, to make the flying and capturing of footage that bit easier. On the top right of the remote you've got the video or photo button, which starts and stops recording or takes a picture. On the left you have a dial, and this changes the shooting angle of the gimbal. By default it goes down 90 degrees to face the ground, and upwards 60 degrees to film above you. The function button on the left is changeable, which I'll show in the settings shortly, but as standard it will tilt the gimbal down 90 degrees so you're facing the ground. The camera rotate button on the right will switch between filming and photos without having to use the app. Press the H or pause button once and it will pause the drone in flight, whilst a long press will initiate RTH or return to home. If the drone is more than 20 meters away, it will ascend to the RTH height to avoid obstacles and come back on a predetermined path which shows on the app screen. If the Neo is between 5 and 20 meters away, it will begin its RTH path without ascending, and if it's less than 5 meters away, it will just begin landing. The Neo will auto return to home if the battery gets too low too, which is usually below 20%, or if it loses transmission signal with the remote control, so that you don't end up with your drone stuck in midair, running out of battery and then falling. Finally, in the centre of the remote, there are 3 modes to choose from, and these determine how fast the drone will move. Sports mode is the fastest, with normal in the middle, and cinematic slower for those smooth motion shots. Taking a look at the DJI Fly app, there's quite a bit more to explore. On the flying screen, starting in the top left corner and going clockwise, you have the mode. Here I'm in N mode, which is normal, and that will change if you go to cinematic or sport mode. Next to it you have your flight warnings such as GPS availability, restricted areas, and if the gimbal is stuck. Tapping it is a quick way to change your return to home altitude, as well as set limits for how high and far your Neo can fly. Moving along to the right corner, you have the remaining battery, which will turn red and start beeping when the battery gets below 20%. You've then got details of the time remaining until return to home, then the remote control signal to the drone, as well as the GPS strength and number of satellites available. The 3 dots are the settings, where there's lots more to adjust. I won't go through absolutely everything as there's just so much, but under the first safety tab you can adjust RTH altitude as well as flight distances, update your home point, calibrate the drone, and do Find My Drone, which starts flashing and beeping to locate it if it gets lost, along with showing its location on the map. Under the Control tab, you can change your units, enable subject scanning, make gimbal adjustments, change your stick mode, and it's here that you can change what the function button does when you single or double press it. Under the Camera tab, you can format the Neo's internal memory, adjust the coding format, add grid lines to the flying screen, and make changes to the Neo storage. Under the Transmission tab, you can change live streaming settings, frequency, and channel modes. Finally, under the About tab, you can view all of the drone's details. On the right hand side of the app is the big red button to start video capture or take a photo, depending on which mode you're in. Below it is the Gallery button, and above it you can switch between taking photos, videos, and using QuickShots. This leads us on to intelligent flight modes, as QuickShots is one of them, and we've seen the QuickShots already in both palm takeoff and flying using mobile control. You can select your subject by pressing the plus button or dragging a box, and can make adjustments to the distance away it will fly on the screen. Droney, rocket, circle, helix and boomerang are great ways to get incredible footage with easy automated flight patterns. The next intelligent flight modes are accessible once you've toggled on subject scanning in the settings menu. With the drone in the air and pointed at your subject, tap the plus button or drag a box around it, and a menu of Focus Track intelligent flight modes will appear at the bottom of the screen. Active Track follows a moving person at a certain distance and altitude. Spotlight enables the camera to face the subject at all times while manually controlling the flight. And Point of Interest allows the aircraft to fly around the subject based on the set radius and flight speed. The final flight mode is cruise control, which enables the aircraft to fly at a constant speed automatically, making long distance flight easy, and it helps to eliminate image shaking and jerky movements that occur while you use the joysticks, which is particularly good for filming. To use it, push the joysticks and hit the cruise control button. The aircraft will keep flying automatically at that speed and trajectory, so you can release the control sticks. The focus track and cruise control modes aren't even available on the next cheapest DJI drone, the DJI Mini 4K, which released in mid-2024, so it's fantastic to see them here. I've actually made a full video on that one too. It's a fantastic traditional beginner drone with superb 4K footage, which I'll link below if you're interested. Back on the flying screen, in the bottom right you've got your shooting settings, and you can choose between Auto and Pro. Under Auto you can change filming resolution and frames per second, and add or remove stops to brighten or darken the image. Under Pro you can adjust your white balance, resolution and frames per second, your ISO and shutter speed. The MM is manual metering, which just shows how much your settings differ from what the camera's metering shows. Finally, in the bottom left you have the map, which can be switched to a compass or enlarged to fill the screen. Importantly, it shows all the areas you can and can't fly the drone to. The fourth and final way to control the drone is via the DJI Goggles 3 and RC Motion 3 controller, or FPV Remote Controller 3. They have to be used together, with the goggles costing £579 or $499, and the RC Motion costing £79 or $99, and the FPV Remote costing £139 or $199. This means, of course, you'll be buying a £169 drone only to spend nearly 4 times that on a way to control it. But you will be able to fly in acro mode this way, and it opens up the versatility of the drone, getting incredible maneuvers and captivating footage. If you're a serious drone enthusiast and want to add the Neo to your collection, then you may already have these to hand to use, but it makes sense for most people who want their first drone at a great price to use the other 3 methods of controlling the Neo that won't break the bank. The DJI Neo supports video resolution of 4K at 30 frames per second and 1080 at 30, 50 and 60 frames per second. The 4K is good quality, though not quite as crisp as other drones on the market such as the Mini 4K, and whilst at £169 you don't get options like HDR, D-Log or multiple lenses, for what you pay you've got lovely video and photos thanks to the stabilised 14mm f2.8 lens, which has a minimum focusing distance of 60cm and a 1/2 inch sensor. The gimbal does a fantastic job at stabilising its footage, and whether used for fun automated flight patterns or manually controlled for epic landscape shots, I think the Neo hits the mark. Although it's geared towards video, you can take still photos on the Neo too. The only option is JPEG format with no RAW available on this drone, and they're 12 megapixels in resolution, which is fairly standard for a 4K drone in this price bracket. In many countries there are restrictions on how and where you can fly drones. Always check the regulations in your country before flying, but as the DJI Neo is a sub 250 gram drone, actually coming in way under 135 grams including the battery, it's less regulated and slightly easier to fly. Rules vary from country to country, but in the UK where I'm from, if your drone isn't a toy and has a camera, then you'll need an annual operator ID which costs £11.13 per year, and it's recommended you get a free flyer ID at the same time. There's a 40-question online test which takes around 20 to 30 minutes, and at the end you'll get an ID to print out. Be sure to check the regulations in your area to find out what you can and can't do with this drone. There are a few other accessories you might want to buy for your DJI Neo drone. First is a case. Usually a Fly More combo kit comes with one, but this time a bag or case isn't included. Luckily there are always third-party cases available, such as this one I got off Amazon for £30 and I've linked in the video description. Next is spare batteries. If you buy the Neo on its own, then one probably won't be enough, as it will only last 15 or so minutes before it needs a charge. Spare batteries cost £35 each, which is pretty reasonable. You might also want more batteries in addition to the 3 included in the Fly More combo kit, as 3 will only give you around 45 minutes of flight time, which soon goes if you're flying it a lot. Having spent hours flying the Neo, I can safely say that it's undoubtedly a fantastic new entry-level addition to the DJI lineup. It's definitely more of a fun drone than a serious one, but it's super easy to use and has multiple control options, making it extra versatile for a family day out, vlogging, travel and capturing day-to-day activities. The 4K video quality might not be quite up to that of other drones, but it's entirely possible that a firmware update from DJI will sort this out. It's also so light that it feels a little flimsy perhaps, but if you treat it with care you'll have a great time flying it, and the ability to have it in your pocket and fly it without a remote control is so practical. It'll be really exciting to see where development of this new concept drone goes, and hopefully in a year or so we'll have a DJI Neo 2 to compare. In the meantime, I'm making a video soon, or have made one depending on when you watch this, comparing the Neo with the Mini 4K, which I've mentioned in this video quite a bit, and is DJI's next cheapest drone. It's more of a traditional concept, but is still at a great price point. I've seen lots of people asking which one they should get in the comments of my other videos, so subscribe for that, and if you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget, I've got affiliate links to everything you need for your Neo setup in the description below. Buying through them helps this channel out and makes videos like this possible. If you have any questions about the Neo, drop them below and I'll do my very best to answer them. Thanks for watching.